and I give him all the respect in the world for insisting on it. But as his promoter, I made it very clear: A, you don't need it, and B, if you don't want to take it, I'm not going to be upset.
Right.
You know, I promote Vera now also, but Vera is probably, in my mind, the most improved middleweight in the last 3 years. When he was on the Contender, he was very raw, couldn't really fight very much, and he really progressed to the point where he embarrassed Sergio more. And the danger for Andy is Andy's balls sometimes get the better of his brain, because he's one of the most skilled boxers in the middleweight division. He's one of the most skilled boxers in the world. But his heart, his warrior spirit, causes him to stand in the middle of the ring sometimes and trade. He can't afford to do that in this fight. Vera is the bigger puncher.
He feels if he wins, he's ready for Sergio. If he wins, what do you feel?
I think if he wins, he's ready for anybody. And look, you know, I mean, your whole aim as a fighter, if you don't want to fight the best, then you're not a real fighter. And by the way, a lot of guys out there don't want to fight Sergio. And you're not a real fighter if you don't. You know, and yeah, he wants it. Macklin's here because he wants it. You know, and Macklin has a whole game plan that he thinks he can beat him. You know, Andy, in his mind, this will clear Andy's head. This will take Andy's doing this for Andy. You know, believe me, he didn't get one iota of pressure for me to do this. If anything, the opposite. But honestly, the fighter is the boss. What the fighter wants is he's the boss, and he feels for his head, for his heart, for his confidence that he needs this fight.
Off topic, the other day, Ortiz said no matter how he said this, he's not interested in a Berto rematch. What do you mean?
Why? Because he'd get his fucking ass kicked. Because he'd get his fucking ass kicked. And by the way, and I'm not saying anything, I'm not pointing fingers at him. I believe in every major fight, because if you look at the big pay-per-view fights lately, where guys have been forced to take performance-enhancing drug testing, look at the performances of some of the guys that have had innuendo about them. You know, and by the way, again, how am I served by saying that? Because Sergio would get tested, because Berto would get tested, because my fighters would be tested like everybody else. But the idea that in a major fight, a big money fight, a pay-per-view fight, a world title fight, there's got to be testing for PEDs, because these guys aren't hitting a baseball. They're hitting each other in the head. You know, and not only that, EPO and the other stuff they test for, blood doping completely changes the fight. If you're out there and you throw 100 punches around and you're not on something, you're going to tire. Like you're supposed to tire. If you're on EPO, some of these guys look stronger late in the fight than they do early in the fight. And I'm not pointing fingers at any one fighter because I can't prove anything. But I'm saying I believe in that as a policy. And how can you criticize me when I'm saying my fighters should be subject to the same testing? And by the way, Ortiz should be ashamed of himself. He should be ashamed of his interview the other day, made himself look like a fucking punk. He should be ashamed of the performance, honestly, because it was the filthiest round I've seen fought against a fighter. And if I was Mayweather, I might have hit him harder.
In your gut, Lucas, I'm sorry. No, go ahead. Just one last question. In your gut, do you feel that the Ortiz-Berto rematch happens?
I think it'll happen because ultimately, ultimately Ortiz is going to have to do what's going to make him money. And honestly, I don't think I understand that Oscar wanted to stand up for his guy, but I don't think that press call helped him. And I think that he came off looking like, the kid. He came off the way he came off after the Maidana fight. And I don't think he's made a lot of friends. So where's he going to go for a big money fight?
And Mayweather said that...
But there won't be a Berto fight if he doesn't get tested for PEDs. And I'm not accusing him of anything. Make that very clear. I'm not accusing him of anything.
Yeah, Floyd Mayweather said that if Victor Ortiz wanted a rematch, that he had to go through Andre Berto.
Because Floyd Mayweather's smart enough to know he's not beating Andre Berto now.
Mm-hmm. So do you think...
And by the way, what did he do to deserve a rematch? He lost every second of the fight.
Exactly.
Every second of the fight.
What's going on with Berto now?
Berto's in good spirits. Look, he just beat we didn't want to bring him back against Zavic. Is very much like Barker in the sense that people don't get the fact that guy was a real fighter. He was a real champion. I mean, if Zavic was screaming to continue that fight when his eye was fully closed, but he fought like a man. I mean, that was a hell of a fight for as long as it went. And Berto didn't want to come back against a slouch. I mean, he knew he had an off night, and he knew he had something to prove. And we wanted to get him the opportunity, not so much to win a title, which he did and was important, but to fight a world-class guy that there could be no doubt that Berto is what he was.
Like Kermit.
Right.
Kermit.
Right.
Yesterday, I walked past you, and when I hope it was a fan and not a writer, said to you, who is that over there? And you said, oh, that's Martinez, middleweight champ. And he said, is that MMA. I have
Well,
to hear.
but I want to tell you something. No, but I want to tell you what that means to me.
It pisses me off.
You know, it pisses me off also, but I blame us. And when I said I blame our industry, which I am obviously a part of. You know, we are not like that guy was under 30, probably about 30. We are not gaining fans under 35 years old. You know, honestly, a lot of our announcers are too old. Our presentation is not sexy enough. You know, we don't do a lot of the bells and whistles that MMA does. I mean, I think we have a better product. We present it poorly, and I don't think we market it well enough. And people say, okay, why don't you do more? Well, I try to do what I can do. You know, and I try to keep boxing alive in New York. But the truth is, unless as an industry we all get together and change the way we present the sport, you're going to have guys like that saying, is he an MMA star?
Did you read my article about Joe Antonacki the other day?
Yeah, wonderful guy.
Did you read it though?
Yes, I did.
So he changed Joe Palooka from a boxer to an MMA fighter now. For the magazine that he's bringing out.
Well, but that's, you know,
he said because that's going to appeal.
But that happens to be true. I mean, the truth of the matter is that our demographic keeps getting older. People keep asking, why are we not on broadcast television? Well, guess what? Advertisers don't want to advertise to our demographic. We have an older demographic. MMA has a younger demographic. They kick our ass in marketing. They don't have a better product, but I think that the fact that they have so much power and almost a monopoly, not a legal monopoly, but a realistic monopoly, allows them to do what they want to do, and their marketing is brilliant. Like, I don't hate Dana White. I respect the guy.
So what's Berto going to do next? That's really what
he wants. I mean, biggest fight we can get. Biggest fight we can get. Period. Biggest fight we can get. We would love that fight, and I don't think it's out of the question. I don't think it's out of the question because you know what? Aaron can continue putting Pacquiao in with guys he has, but they're going to run out of people. And Pacquiao's going to destroy Marquez, not because Marquez isn't great. Marquez deserves that fight because, in my mind, I love that guy. I mean, I gave him his first opportunities on television. I think Juan Manuel Marquez is one of the greatest fighters at the lower weight classes who's ever lived. That's how much I think of him. But he's also that much smaller than Manny Pacquiao. So it's a physical mismatch, not a skill mismatch. If they were the same size, I'd be betting on Marquez, but they're not. They're not. And I think you're going to see another fight where Manny prevails fairly easily. And then where do they go from there? If they're not going to fight each other, where do both of them go from there?
You see one day Martinez, and let's assume that
there's a much better chance that Floyd Mayweather would fight Martinez than Pacquiao.
Well, actually, that's good to know too, but that's not what I'm going to ask. If Margarito were to beat Cotto again, which I don't think is going to happen. You know why?
I think it can happen because I got to be honest with you. I think I have a real hard on for Margarito because to me the greatest sin you can commit is what he did. And I've spoken to fighters all over the world, and every single one of them said to me, "If you put a matchstick in my wrappings, I'm going to feel it because that becomes part of my hand. I'm so used to being wrapped."
Especially when he hits.
Yeah, so to me, that's a cardinal sin. So and the idea that he's getting richer and richer and richer because he cheated makes me sick.
Could he have cheated against Martinez 10 years ago?
Yeah, but who knows? I mean, you don't know. You know, Martinez doesn't want to say that because you can't prove it. But if I think that right now Cotto, who's a wonderful fighter, a great fighter, is an old fighter and been through some major wars. He's an older fighter, not an old man, but actually in years. But in terms of ring, like what he's had to endure in the ring wear. He's had a lot of ring wear. If Margarito gets lucky, and by the way, I pray that he doesn't, because I am rooting for Cotto.
I'm rooting for Cotto.
Like everyone else is rooting for Cotto. But if Margarito wins, the only fight for Margarito is Martinez.
That would be a great fight.
Yeah, it would be.
So do you think,
Thank you very much.
I kind of believe that Andre Berto and Victor Ortiz is really going to happen. I think Victor Ortiz is kind of forced to have that fight.
I think he's going to be forced to have
Do you
that.
think if Andre Berto gets past Victor Ortiz, do you think that Mayweather is a more makeable fight?
Yes, I think it's a very makeable fight.
And I don't know if you heard the recent news with Paulie Malignaggi, but he came on a radio show to settle the dispute between you and him because, you know, Paulie...
About who, Paulie?
Yeah.
Paulie and I have spoken privately. Yeah. Paulie and I have communicated. There is no war between Paulie and I. I mean, I'm not going to lie and say I'm not hurt still, and I'm not going to lie and say I feel the same way, but Paulie, I wish Paulie nothing but the best, and Paulie and I have made peace. You know, I mean, there's not a... You know, you were together 11 years since he was a kid, and he said it, and I'll say the same thing. You don't spend that much time together and not have feelings, you know, and yeah, he hurt me a lot, but Paulie and I have made peace.
Well, that's good to know because a lot of fans, you know, had that misconception ever since those.
Well, but you know, there was a lot of animosity, but it's over. And I wish him nothing but the best.
All right, thank you.